going to get on my high horse a little bit in this podcast episode because it's something that I feel really, really passionately about. But I feel like it's really, really diminished, and not even just necessarily with narcissistic abuse, but in society in general. And that is actually cheating or adultery, whatever you want to call it. Now, I know for me, when I split up from my ex-husband, he was the one that actually left me. I had been brought up on fairy tales, and for me, keeping that family together, that's what I should have been doing. And whilst my intentions were pure, actually, that was the worst possible thing that I could have done for my children. And I can see how much they are thriving and flourishing now. And this is obviously years later now. But in my mind, my parents have still been together. Not quite sure how, but they were until my mum passed away in 2009. But for me, it was about keeping the family unit together regardless. And if you think about, how I witnessed my parents' relationship, you stay together regardless, whether you were treated badly or whatever, you stay together. That's what you did. So of course, when I got married, that's the intention that I had. So actually, my ex-husband was the one to leave me. Now, during our marriage, there was multiple affairs, and I'm sure there was many, many more that I don't even know about either. The first one that I found out about, and I say found out about because I'm sure there was others before then, was actually when I was 6 months pregnant with our daughter. Now, I'd had 4 miscarriages after having our son. So you can imagine it had been a very traumatic couple of years. I felt like I'd been constantly pregnant with no baby at the end of it. And when I fell pregnant with our daughter, I was actually really, really poorly. I had really, really bad morning sickness to the extent I was on medication for it because I couldn't stop being sick and I was losing weight rapidly. And then at 6 months, I actually found out that my husband was cheating. Now, you can imagine at 6 months pregnant, finding out this, I couldn't go out and get drunk. I couldn't even do anything. And actually, when I eventually found out, he started crying and I ended up comforting him. And I ended up comforting the woman that he was having an affair with me with as well, because he had said he'd hated seeing me go through all the miscarriages. So kind of covertly blaming me for the reason he cheated. So I apologized for that. That's really gaslighting at its extreme. But I know there was many other affairs. My husband worked away from home a lot because he was actually cabin crew for an airline here in the UK, the biggest airline. So he was away a lot. So there was always ample opportunity for him to do that. And bizarrely, actually, when we eventually split up, I spoke to some people who knew him from flying, and he used to take his wedding ring off and put it in the car before he went to work. So people either could think he wasn't married, or even if they did think he was married, he would then say he had to do everything at home. Now, anyone that knows me, anyone that knows a codependent is, as parents, we try and overparent. So there was no way I was actually going to let him do everything when he was at home, because I needed to make sure the children knew how good enough parent I was as well. But of course, that meant when every trip he went on, and he would say this, of course, everyone would be like, oh, you're such a great father. You're such a great husband. I'm so sorry your wife is being like this, which of course is all the narcissistic supply that he wanted. So I have no doubt that there were many, many affairs that he had. And actually, when eventually he did leave me, he told me that there was nobody else, that he was just didn't want to see me this unhappy anymore. So it was like I was thanking him and being grateful for his love for me, for not wanting to see me feel the way that I was anymore. And he was leaving me very altruistically because he was putting me at the heart of his decision-making processes. Yep, a complete load of BS. But of course, I was there, totally gaslit for many, many years, been in that abusive relationship with him. And of course, I just took it. But there was something in my gut that said there was absolutely somebody else. And, probably about 8 weeks later, he sent me a text that clearly wasn't for me. It was quite a sexual text. I don't remember the exact words, but I do remember there was something about being a werewolf in there. And I remember nearly vomiting when I read it. Because initially I thought, my God, he's sending this to me. And then I twigged and thought, aha, no, he sent it to the wrong person. So then he sent me a message saying, I know you know. And in that moment, when we met up after that, I remember we were standing in our hall at the time, leaning against the door frame, and I was in another door frame. And I remember saying to him, I have no idea how many affairs you've had. And his response, it's none of your business, is it? And I think that's when it all changed, because he knew I knew at that point that he was, a serial adulterer. I'd kind of been coming to the ideas that I'd been in this abusive relationship. We were in a whole host of debt at that time. And it was a really, really traumatic, stressful time. And I think because he knew I knew the language that he used. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, I'm the mother of your children, and the coldness and the kind of abusive nature of how he behaved, not just then, but afterwards as well. I could never really understand it. But the main reason to do this podcast is really to talk about cheating and adultery in relationships, because I think people don't realize how damaging to the core of who you are, what it's like to be with someone that cheats on you. You know, we say that word cheating or even adultery, and it's a word. It's a descriptive term and we know what it means. But the depth of hurt, literally, and the only way I can describe this is like in your bones, literally in your bones, that if you are with someone who cheats on you, whilst very often you can rationalize and say, this is they're at fault, they shouldn't cheat. But there's something so deep inside of you that it knocks your confidence. It knocks you to the core of who you are. Am I good enough? Am I not worthy enough for someone not to cheat on me? And I remember thinking at the time, I felt so bad about how I looked and how I was anyway from having our children. I'd put on weight, hated how I looked. I was wearing baggy clothes. And I desperately wanted to feel beautiful and sexy and all of those things, but I didn't. And I now know from a trauma perspective, a lot of that was carrying that extra weight was a form of protection for me as well. But at the time, when you have someone cheating on you, when you're pregnant, or when you're not feeling good about yourself, it literally on a really subconscious level is reinforcing what you are already feeling about yourself, that you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not lovable enough for someone not to cheat on you. And I think in our society, when people say about someone cheating, we do minimize it, we do brush it off. And I wanted to, in this podcast, not to minimize it. If you have been in a relationship, with a narcissist and they are cheating on you, have cheated on you, I want you to know that that was not your fault. This is wrong. It doesn't matter in any relationship, whether it be good, bad, whatever. There is zero excuse for cheating. If you are prepared to cheat on somebody, then it is cruel and it is horrible. It is mean, and it says more about you as a person. Now, I get it. In some relationships, things start to break down, but you end the relationship. You leave the relationship. You know what narcissists do, where they use cheating as a form of control and manipulation, whether they get caught or not. It's about them getting narcissistic supply. Now, I've no doubt when the cheating really started with my ex-husband, and that was probably when we initially started to have children. Narcissists want your full attention. They want that full-on narcissistic supply. But obviously, when you have children, we need to focus that attention on our children, right? Even in a possible situation, you need to focus on your children from an attachments perspective. That's what we need to be doing. But what narcissists do is they put pressure on you because they want the same attention. Now, if you don't give them that full attention, the likelihood is they're going to start looking somewhere else for it. Now, you may not think that, but if you are not giving the narcissist in your life the attention they think that they deserve, I can 100% guarantee it, they will be getting it or looking to get it from somebody else. And this is why when other people, minimize the cheating side of all of this, it's almost like cheating has become normalized about relationships breaking down. And I know initially when I split up from my ex-husband, it was almost like, okay, he's cheated, you've split up, now kind of move on. But it hits you hard. When I think about my self-esteem, when I found out that he was cheating, it knocked me literally to the very core. It is wrong. And we shouldn't be doing that to another human being. We should have the grace. We should have the confidence to be able to verbalize that with somebody and then leave the relationship, or at least try and make the relationship work. And narcissists are masters of manipulation with this. They really are. And they will use cheating and adultery, and they will gaslight you and turn it around, just like my ex-husband did, to make it your fault that they cheated. It is not your fault. It absolutely isn't. I am not here to say I was 100% perfect in my relationship with my ex-husband, but regardless of how I was, there was zero excuse for cheating. You leave, you go, you don't cheat. You don't give lots of people a go to see who is better and who's going to give you the most narcissistic supply. Because I know that's what happened in the end with my ex-husband. He had multiple affairs, but this particular woman obviously gave him the most supply and he left to be with her. And again, I don't feel bitter about all of that. I have no kind of bad feeling towards this particular woman, because ultimately my ex-husband is a grown man. He had opportunity to make choices. He may well have been attracted to her, but again, he has a voice. He could say, no, I am married. I need to sort this out, or I need to leave. So I want you to know, if you've had someone cheat on you in your life, it is not your fault. I know it will rock your self-esteem. I know it will make you think that in some way, maybe it's your fault, that you're not sexy enough or beautiful enough or pretty enough or handsome enough. Let me tell you, that is irrelevant. No human being, if you are in a relationship, should be committing adultery or cheating with anybody else. It is wrong. And I want you to know that. And I'm so sorry if you have had to experience that as well, because I know it can really rock you to the core. I know now, if anyone cheated on me now, that would be the end of the relationship. It literally would. But because I'd been in an abusive relationship, I was a perpetual people pleaser. When my ex-husband cheated, and he gave me as the excuse as to why, but in an altruistic way as such, and then I was comforting him, that is wrong. And I look back and I feel such kindness and compassion for the younger woman that I was then, not actually feeling strong enough in my true self to hold my boundaries, to make him leave, or for me to leave at that point. I was accepting of his cheating breadcrumbs of love because they were better than having none. So let me know, send me some messages on this. Tell me if you can relate. Do people around you minimize cheating? Do they kind of feel like you should just move on, or kind of say things like, well, they're like this anyway, good riddance? It's all very well saying all of that. But if you have been cheated on, it can really rock you to the core. And I want you to know that that is not your fault. It is theirs. Somebody who cheats on another human being is not a nice person. And I get it. You may be listening now thinking, oh my gosh, I've cheated in the past, but I know you'll know that's wrong. We shouldn't be doing that to anybody. If we feel like cheating, we need to address it like adults in a relationship, leave or have communication and talk to the other person. So let's not minimize cheating. Okay. It's serious and it's hurtful, and it should stop. And if you have someone that has cheated on you, take a look at how they continue to treat you. Are you accepting of breadcrumbs of love? Even if someone has cheated, you deserve more. And if you're struggling with all of that, don't forget, I'll pop it in the show notes. Please come and join my free and private Facebook group so you're not on your own, where we talk about this kind of stuff as well. So take care, my friends. Big hugs to you. If you have been cheated on, then please know it's not your fault. This is them. This is their stuff. This is their wounds. But let's not receive it coming from your wounds where we make it acceptable, because it isn't. So take care. I hope you've learned something. I hope you know and realize it's not your fault, and maybe this can be the starting point. And I'll see you on the next episode.